Today, Priyansh and I are tackling a question that might just change the way you see yourself. We often hear that intelligence is a gift, a blessing, something to be proud of. But what if it's actually a curse? What if the very thing we value most about ourselves is the reason for our suffering? Let's break it down. Priyansh, intelligence is often seen as a gift. But what if it's actually a burden? What if the more you understand, the harder life becomes?
That doesn't stand true on a macro scale. I mean, intelligence, when developed in certain species of animals, ended up making them the most dominant species on the planet. Human beings are the most dominant species on the planet by far. Among in the ocean, dolphins stand out. Octopuses are known to be very intelligent, and chimpanzees perform really well in their environments. Same goes for avians like crows. They also perform really well with their tool use. So intelligence seems to be an overpowered attribute on a macro scale of the Earth server.
True, intelligence has been a defining advantage in survival and dominance. But on an individual level, does it always help? The more intelligent someone is, the more they tend to overanalyze stress and struggle with existential dread. A chimp doesn't have a midlife crisis. A crow isn't questioning the meaning of life. If intelligence is such a gift, why does it seem to create so much suffering?
I mean, from what I remember, there was a study which was conducted which said that intelligence is correlated to the amount of success you have in life or something like that. So how would you contract with that?
Success, sure. But is success the same as happiness? The most intelligent people in history, philosophers, scientists, even CEOs, often suffer from anxiety, depression, and social isolation. Intelligence gives you the tools to navigate life more effectively, but it also makes you aware of problems that a less intelligent person wouldn't even recognize.
Okay.
So, does intelligence make life better or just more complicated?
I mean, if it does guarantee your success, so it does guarantee your resources, and if it does guarantee your resources, that means it does guarantee you a higher station in life. Sure, I mean, it might exacerbate or cause problems when it comes to companionship. Because think about it, if you are an outlier, you won't necessarily relate with everyone else. Human beings do not work together with species. We end up using them at the end of the day. So same goes for intelligence. It's just that the difference in intelligence between two human beings, someone who's someone like Einstein and someone who's your average person, is vast enough to cause a difference that he can't socially connect, but also close enough that we're in the same species at the end of the day. So like it gives you an advantage in terms of success and overall survivability. It gives you an advantage. Now the micro level things like companionship and everything, yes, I think there is a detrimental factor in that for sure.
That's exactly it. Intelligence gives you power, but it also isolates you. The more intelligent you are, the fewer people there are who can truly understand you, and that creates a trade off. Do you chase power, success, and resources, knowing it might cost you deep human connection? Or do you stay within the bounds of normality, blending in, but limiting your potential? Maybe intelligence isn't just a blessing or a curse, it's a test of how you wield it.
I think you're rating it too high. I mean, think about it. A person who isn't intelligent, who has great social companionship, who will end up dying a mediocre death, and then they will, in that sort of death, they will, on their deathbed, complain that why wasn't I successful? Why was I mediocre? I wish I had done more with my life. And then there will be the intelligent person who does a lot with his life, achieves great success, and then he will be dying with the regrets of why did not I have social companionship? Why did no one understand me? So big deal. No matter you, I think you'll just end up being a regretful person either way. If you're inclined to be a regretful person, it doesn't matter if you're successful or not successful at the end of the day, or intelligent, more so intelligent. Yeah.
That's a fair point. Maybe it's not intelligence that determines happiness or fulfillment, it's perspective. If you're the kind of person who fixates on what you don't have, you'll die regretting something no matter what path you take. The fool the genius for his success, and the genius envies the fool for his peace. But the real key might just be learning to be content with what you do have, instead of obsessing over what you don't.
I mean, either way, even your suffering is imaginary, your contentment itself is imaginary. Everything that you feel is a response to your environment, firstly, and secondly, a product of your genetics, your upbringing, and your basic biology. I think that genetics covers that, but yeah, and your past experiences. All of these come together to form whatever experience you have, and your mindset is what a lot of times determines how you end up reacting to it. But mindset is just like fancy terminology. At the end of the day, it is just imagination, right? For example, let's say taking a bullet wound out of your leg, right? We know for a fact that it is good, and that is why we take it as a positive. But in the moment, it is just painful. Someone is like shoving a knife in your thigh to take out that bullet wound. If you did not knew any better, you would think of that as a bad thing. Same with, let's say, preparing for an entrance exam, right? The struggle of 9 months, maybe multiple years to clear that entrance exam. It's all suffering. If you did not know it will result in a good thing at the end of the day, it's still suffering. So at the end of the day, it is all in your head. Imagination, suffering, regret, contentment, all in your head. So if it is all in your head, why don't you choose something which feels better?
Because choosing isn't that simple. If you could just pick happiness like flipping a switch, nobody would ever be miserable. But suffering, regret, and even contentment aren't just ideas you consciously control, they're deeply wired into you. It's like telling someone with depression to just be happy. If it were that easy, they wouldn't be depressed in the first place. Your brain filters reality in a way that feels real to you. So even if suffering is imaginary, it feels real. And that's all that matters. The trick isn't to blindly choose happiness, it's to train yourself to see things differently over time. And that's hard. Most people don't even realize they can reshape the way they see reality.
Yes, but that is the point. It's not necessarily hard, and I'm going to say something that people will probably like crucify me for. But yes, why don't you choose being happy when you're depressed? The point is, a lot of there is a subset of people who actually do that. It's called yogis. People who are into highly meditative practices, they're able to pick and choose their emotions. They have absolute mastery over their emotions, and they can choose to decide which perspective, which worldview they will follow that particular day. That is what it is all about. At the end of the day, you set out rules for yourself and you follow them. You train your mind in that sense. And yes, everyone wants to believe it's just baby steps, right? Everyone wants to believe I'm getting little by little every single day, but it's a coward's mindset, it's a fool's mindset, it's a failure's mindset to believe that there are baby steps. Why? It's because they can't achieve it, because they feel that they are better today at 60 years old than they were at 20 years old. But the reason, the main thing is they never really improved. It's like you're not able to clear a competitive exams, but you're like, yes, but I am increasing my marks by zero point 0.5 every year. It's a slow process, man. No, you decide for yourself, I want to become that. You figure out techniques to in order to master your emotions, you figure out rules in order to do that, and you make that change. Nothing is stopping you from becoming or following the yogi's path. And you don't even have to go into enlightenment. There are literally particular methodologies, tricks, and mantras and tantras available for you to do exactly that. It's all on the internet, it's all everywhere. You can choose it. It's just that most people don't, because they are cowards.
That's the part nobody wants to hear. People convince themselves that change is a slow, passive process because it gives them an excuse to stay the same. It's comforting to believe that emotional mastery takes a lifetime, because then they never have to feel bad about not having it now. They'd rather lie to themselves than admit they're just unwilling to put in the work. And you're right, there are systems, techniques, and mental frameworks that let you take control of your emotions, but they require discipline. Real discipline, not the half assed, I'll meditate for 5 minutes a day and call it self improvement nonsense. People don't want to hear that they could flip the switch if they truly committed, because then they'd have to take responsibility for their own suffering. And most people would rather be miserable than admit they're the ones choosing it.
Exactly. People aren't miserable because they're intelligent. People aren't miserable because of some reason, and it is not something that you have to suffer for. You choose your own suffering. Your suffering is self-inflicted, and till you believe that, till you remember that, and till you completely embody that, you will never escape it. Why? Because you never even wanted to.
Exactly. People cling to their suffering because it gives them identity. It gives them an excuse. If they let go of it, they have to face the fact that they wasted years wallowing in something they could have walked away from at any moment. They don't want freedom. They want validation. They want the world to agree that their suffering is special, that it wasn't their fault, that they couldn't have done anything differently. But the truth is that every second they stay miserable is a second they chose to be. And deep down they know it. That's why they get defensive when you tell them.
Exactly. We are the architects of our own suffering, and we are the prisoners of our own jail. We don't come out of the cave not because we don't see the light above, it's because we don't want to.
And that's where we leave it. Are we truly bound by our intelligence, or are we just shackled by our own unwillingness to change? Maybe misery isn't a curse, it's a choice. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because at the end of the day, patterns are everywhere.